Welcome to NEK-TV Rocks, and my guest today is Garrett Brinton, and you're the children's librarian?
Correct.
What's your title?
Children's librarian.
Children's librarian, hey! You're doing some amazing programming at the Dailey Library, and for everybody's benefit, that's the one in Derby, right
Derby
by the
Center,
Derby
right.
Center, right by the ice cream place.
That's right.
So you get a book, you come out, you get an ice cream. Couldn't beat it.
It's a good combination for sure.
Yeah, it certainly is for events there. And you're doing some really interesting things. What are you doing?
Okay, well, it's summer, so I
Yeah.
guess first I'll just mention our summer learning program.
Yeah.
So that goes on for 8 weeks during the summer, and it has 3 components to it. The first is our summer reading challenge, and that's where, kids from Derby and all the surrounding towns can come in and sign up for the reading challenge, and they get a sheet with of stickers and a little scorecard to put the stickers on, and for every 20 minutes of reading they do,
Cool.
they put a sticker on the sheet, and then they come in once a week either to one of our programs or just anytime the library's open, and they show us the reading, we record how much they did, and they get to pick out some little reading rewards. And you mentioned the ice cream place next to us, Sweet Scoops. So, for example, they donated 100 gift certificates for free Creamy. So that's one of the little prizes the kids can pick weekly. McDonald's of Derby also gives McFlurries. And there's just a lot of little things like the little slap bracelets that the kids love, stickers, little toys, pencils and pens, and so on a particular theme. This year's theme is Oceans of Possibilities. So it's a lot of ocean-related stuff.
Literally oceans.
Literally.
Cool.
So they get little prizes, and they also get to put their ticket in for a raffle for some bigger prizes. Some Lego sets, a T-shirt, just different prizes that they might be interested in, and then we have drawings at the end of the summer. So that gets them kind of excited about coming in to do that. We have about 160 kids so far that have signed up this summer, and they've reported almost 500 hours of reading so far. We're about halfway through the summer program now.
It's a great way to get kids interested in reading.
They do, and it's fun to hear parents tell you that their kids are nagging them to read to them at night.
Yeah.
So that's great. And then the other components are we have programs twice a week for that 8-week period, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10:30 a.m. The Tuesday ones are called Stories on the Lawn, and those are sort of aimed at ages up to 6 years old, so sort of the preschool crowd. And we do stories and crafts and games, and then we have some special guests and that sort of thing. And then Thursdays is similar, but it's more aimed at the 6 to 12, like elementary age kids. The ages are not hard and fast. There's obviously a lot of younger siblings and older siblings and so on, but that's fun, and we're really lucky to have a nice outdoor space there at the library. We were using the big event tent that the junior high has very generously not only let us use, but put up for us, which is not an easy task.
Well, it's to their advantage too, because you're getting little kids interested and bigger kids interested in reading, which only helps the school.
Sure. And so they've been tremendously helpful. They also, the kitchen there, which is, I guess, run by the Abbey Group, provides free bag lunches for all the kids at the program. So in addition to the crafts and the games and the story time itself, they get to sort of picnic on the library lawn or take the bag lunch home with them. So,
what's a typical program? If there's any such thing.
The typical one is, I will read 1 or 2 stories on a particular theme. This Thursday it's going to be on jellyfish, so there's a new book out called I Am Not a Fish. Cute little story about a jellyfish explaining why he's not actually a fish. And then we'll have one nonfiction book aimed at that age group too, with facts about jellyfish. And we'll make a craft. In this case it's going to be a cute little jellyfish craft. And then we'll have some kind of game, which in this case I haven't invented yet. But usually it's an outdoor running around game to get some of the kids' energy out after that. So that's sort of the typical program.
That's cool.
And then we also, and of course kids show up and they report their reading there too. And so we have the prize table out there. And the bag lunches at the end. And then sometimes we have special guests. So a couple weeks ago we had local Vermont children's author Natalie Kinsey Warnock, and that was actually our biggest program yet. We had 78 kids show up.
Wow.
And I think, almost 30 adults, so it was just a huge program, our biggest one so far. And we also had our...
She must have a following.
She does, and
great.
The kids were really excited by it. She gets them tremendously excited about she's an author and talks about how many of her stories are based on her life experience growing up in the Northeast Kingdom. And so she kind of retold one of her stories, and she showed a bunch of quilts that are her mostly that her grandmother made that related to some of those things, and took questions and answers. And the questions from the kids and the parents were great. And we heard a lot of great feedback about how excited the kids were. And, you know, she makes a big point of telling kids that, you know, I have these stories, but it's not because my family's special. Your family probably has 100 stories that are worthy of being in children's books, too. You just don't know all of them. And if you don't ask your grandparents, you know, you need to ask those stories and collect them and pass them on. Pass them on to that next generation. So that was terrific. And, you know, that brought in... according to our director, Maureen Badger, that was the biggest day since she's been at the library, which I think is 5 or 6 years. Biggest day for attendance at the library. So it brings in kids, but it also brings in parents and other caregivers and stuff. So anyway, that's some of what we're doing this summer. We have a few more fun upcoming special guests. So Tanya Sousa, who's another local children's book author. Has she been on the show?
Yes, in the past.
I was going to say, if not, you should have her.
Oh, yes.
She's coming on August 2nd and 4th, so both the Tuesday and the Thursday program to read her new book.
And she's a teacher, too, so...
Right.
Yeah.
And she's going to read her new book, which I believe is called Tossing Stars. And,
yes.
You know, so we're looking forward to that. And then our big wrap-up for the year will be on August 11th. We're having the Vermont Traveling Storyteller, which is an outfit that comes and does a story and a puppet show. And so that should be a lot of fun.
Who's that?
They're out of Enosburg Falls. I can't tell you too much more about them, but you can look them up online. They've been around for quite a while. And, they've done programs before that our director, when she was at the library in Georgia, Vermont, gave them high reviews. So they're coming out. They're going to do an original play that they had written themselves. And we're looking forward to it. It should be great.
Yeah. It's a great way to learn about local resources, too.
The library, yeah, sure.
And for you, moving back here and sort of learning what's available and finding people to pull in.
Yeah, it's impressive
really
how much
great.
there is and just how many people contribute. You know, our library really runs largely on donations and volunteers. A lot of people may not realize it, but the Dailey Library gets less than half its funding from the towns that it serves. More than half comes from contributions. Right. And a lot of that's raised by volunteers. So we run largely on volunteers. Even the summer program, I couldn't possibly manage these crowds of kids that we've had. We're averaging
a lot of people.
30 to 40 kids and around 20 adults for each one of these programs, and a prize table and just all the activities we're doing in the bag lunches.
So you have volunteers coming for each one?
Yeah, we have some young volunteers. We have 2 or 3 usually at each program, and they just help us get set up. It's a lot of chairs and tables to set up, and just the prize table
and
put away. And then just as importantly, inside the library, we have several volunteers, including a former staff person, who are, making a point to have enough volunteers there so that our director, Maureen Badger, can come out and help with the programs as well. So, on any given day during the summer program, there's, 4 to 6 volunteers there and 2 paid staff.
Wow.
So without them, we would be treading water at best, if not drowning.
It's a lot of coordination.
Sure, yeah, and we're very lucky that we have so many people that are willing to contribute.
What are you going to do in the winter?
In the winter, we continue with our Tuesday programs. Our 10:30 a.m. Tuesday is our regular story time hour. So usually the groups are quite a bit smaller. They might be, 15 or 20 people at most. And we, last year, with the pandemic, still raging, and who knows what's going to happen this fall, we stay outdoors as long as we can. So we don't use, once the junior high is back in session, they may be using their event tent, but we have our solar gazebo next to the library, and that helps quite a bit. Now, if it's pouring rain and horizontal rain coming down with heavy wind, you have to go inside.
Right.
And we are lucky that the library was rebuilt about 5 years ago and significantly renovated. So we have really modern ventilation system, and you can really hear it cranking when it's going in there. It sounds, it moves a lot of air in, and we're lucky to get through an ARPA grant some like medical grade air filtration.
Wow.
So we feel like our air is probably some of the cleaner air around. So we were able to continue with our in-person story times through the winter last winter, and not all libraries were able to. They're just in different situations. So.
And pretty much routine, you have somebody come in, or one of you reads stories?
Right, yeah,
talks
typically
about
it'll be sort of the same, but on a smaller scale. So
Yeah.
usually we'll have a story and then a craft and, some sort of indoor game, a lot of times a matching game of some
Yeah.
sort, or a little scavenger hunt or something like that.
Yeah.
So
I've
those are
seen
a lot of fun.
some of your programming where you've had animals coming.
Yeah, well, last year,
Chickens and
right.
cats and camels. And
Last year's summer program, the theme was Tales and Tales. And that was a great one because it opened that opportunity to bring
Sure.
some live animals. So we started the first one with honeybees because in my other part of my life, I'm a beekeeper. So we actually brought in a little observation hive, a little plexiglass hive.
Yeah.
So no loose bees, but kids are fascinated, of course, by bees.
they're amazing to watch.
And one thing I've learned is you bring your observation hive in, but you keep it covered, because once you take the cover off it,
You've lost them.
right, they don't hear a word you say. They're just
Yeah.
locked in looking for the queen in there.
Yeah.
So we did honeybees. We had the mini donkeys from Derby
Yeah.
Pond Farm. That was terrific. I was a big attendance for that. We had chickens. We had a bearded dragon lizard, Cooper the therapy dog. So live animals for 7 out of 8, and then the last one we did dragons. So we told the kids, I'm sorry.
You couldn't find a dragon?
Well, it just isn't safe. So
That's
anyway, yeah,
not
that was a
very
lot of fun.
Imaginative if you couldn't find a dragon.
I didn't say we couldn't find one. I said
You
it wasn't
couldn't-
safe.
Oh, you're right.
So that was terrific. That was terrific. This year, of course, again, the theme is oceans of possibilities, and Vermont's not on the ocean, so and it's kind of hard to bring whales and sharks and things. But
You can turn yourself into a jellyfish, though, with those clear umbrellas.
that's a neat idea.
Well, I'd like to say it was original, but it's not. There's a band called the Grand Slambovians, and people show up at their concerts with the clear umbrellas that they put lights on and paint and glitter and streamers.
That sounds like a lot of
referred
fun.
to as the jellies. It is so much fun.
Nice.
It's amazing, and they sort of parade in and walk around the grounds of either the concert hall or a festival.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, you can find it online, and the kids love it.
I'll look it up.
Make their own jelly.
Yeah. Oh, and you asked also what else we do in the winter. So
Yeah.
in addition to the story times, we do visits to 7 daycares at this point, and we're trying to expand that. So it's kind of story time on the road. Because, of course, the story time, 10:30 a.m., families with 2 working parents or single parents
Forget
who are
it,
working,
right.
they're not able to bring their
Right.
kids unless another family member can bring them, or caregiver. So we take the story time to the kids. So about once a month, we go to each one of these daycares. Like I said, we're up to 7 now. We'd like to expand that
That's a lot.
further. And we do the same type of story time we do in the library, with a story and a craft and a game. And we also deliver 30 books in a crate, and then switch those out once a month for them, so they get access to the library books that way. So I really enjoy doing those. I have to cut back on them during the summer just because the
Sure.
summer program is so
Not enough hours.
time intensive. But we do miss them, and I can't wait to get back to them in
Had you worked
August.
with kids before you came here?
Yeah, well, previous to this, I was working at the Jaffrey Public Library in Jaffrey, New Hampshire. And further in the past, I worked at the Blackstone Memorial Library in Brantford, Connecticut. And I was children's librarian there. But in between, I've done quite a few other jobs, but some of them involve kids. I worked with foster kids when I was in California. I worked with kids with developmental disabilities when I was in Connecticut. So
Yeah.
I do enjoy it. It's they sort of recharge your batteries.
Yeah.
Kids see things in a different way than
They
adults do.
certainly do, and they're not hesitant about saying it.
That's right.
Which is great. Forget your ego, but
That's right.
yeah, it's really wonderful to have something that's imaginative coming into the area and sort of being mainstreamed.
Sure, yeah, and there's a lot of energy at the library, and I
Right.
think we owe a lot of that to, we've got a very supportive board
Yeah.
that is just always looking to ask us what we'd like to do and find some ways to do it, and then just, volunteers, donors. One thing that we're really lucky to have is a set of 5 Lego education kits, which are kind of fancy Lego kits that you can make various machines with, simple machines and powered machines. These were donated by a local teacher from Coventry, Irene Digest,
Oh,
who lives
yeah.
in Derby.
Yes.
And she, had just used these kits in her classroom before and
Right.
had found them tremendously helpful. And so she donated 5 of them to the library, which is not an inconsiderable expense. And so we, during the school year, we've been doing about once a month a Lego program where kids will sign up to come in and they work in pairs, which is great. So the way these kits work, the directions are in pairs. One kid does sort of half the machine,
Yeah.
another kid does another half, and then they put them together. And, it's sort of ages 6 and up type thing. And they build simple machines, and also there's a little motor and battery pack, so we've been doing some of the powered machines too. So that's a lot of fun. We have plans in this fall to do like a little Lego club, which will have Legos at all different levels. We also have Legos that are sort of too big to swallow for the little kids, called a Lego Steam Park, and that makes some cool like amusement park ride type things. And of course, mostly just make whatever they like with it.
Yeah.
And then we have sort of normal Legos now. We got some donations of sort of regular Lego kit, just a general bin of Legos, and then these fancy Lego education kits. And so the idea will be that, families can come and they'll have something for their littler kids or their
Yeah.
middle kids or their older kids that'll engage them. So different parts of the library, and they can do
So
the
amazing
creative
the
stuff.
resources that are out there now that if you don't have little kids in your life, never cross your mind.
Oh, sure. I mean, when I was a kid, we had Legos, but they were, basically blocks and a few
Right.
sets of wheels or whatever.
Yeah.
And now they're very intricate kits that you can use. That really-
Apparently, I mean, if you can make a machine, a sort of functioning machine in some ways, then that's
Sure.
pretty
We
impressive.
made a little Lego drag racer that actually has 2 different gears, so the kids learn about how the gear
Yeah.
ratios work, that if you have a large gear to a small gear, it's more power this way, and they switch it
Yeah.
that way, it's more speed.
I mean,
And so
we
they're
didn't
learning
even have
some
Lego.
stuff.
We had something that was called Meccano, which was sort of metal pieces that you screwed together and made things.
A little like an erector set.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I look back at those now and think they look terribly dangerous, but like sharp pieces and stuff.
I don't think anybody ever thought of that or cared.
Yeah, we had Lincoln logs and whatnot. But yeah, some of the Lego kits are really interesting, and you can see it sparking their imagination.
Yeah.
We did one that was sort of, the directions didn't say what the item was called, but we called it robotic alien stick insects, because that's kind of what they looked like.
Yeah.
They walked, and so
Well, that
once the
would get
kids made
attention.
them, then they started building other things onto the antennae on the
Yeah.
front and battling them, so they would march towards each other and sort of one would try to flip the other one over. So the kids had a great time with that. We just got a new set of items called Ozobots, which are tiny little round programmable robots. And we haven't done a program on them yet. We're getting ready to do that. And these help kids with the basics of learning, like the idea behind coding. You give a set of instructions to these little robots. So, you put down a piece of paper and you can put different colored marks on the paper, and the robot senses it. So it knows that if it gets to 2 green lines, it's supposed to twirl around, and if it gets to a black line and a red line, then it's supposed to turn left. And so you can make a little map for it to
You
do
should be
various
doing these
things.
for adults because we're the ones who are lacking those skills.
That's probably true.
we don't
yeah.
even know how to program
Yeah.
our cell phones.
No, I find those things a little intimidating, but
Yeah.
since they're made with instructions for kids, I can almost manage them.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to doing some programs with the Ozobots as well.
Yeah, it's amazing what's available. And equally the skill bank that kids have to know now.
That's true. I think there's, we thought it was tough having to learn, algebra in 7th grade or something, and now
Yes,
they're
it
having
was.
to learn having to learn about coding and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But it's nice to introduce them to it in a way that's fun and not too intimidating, and they
Yeah,
can do some
and
fun
it
stuff
sort
with
of
it.
takes away from the negativity of all kids do now is stare at a screen.
Right.
Because it's not true. It's not all they do.
Right, right. And, that's what the library is great for, too. Kids have had a lot of screen time, especially during the couple
it's
pandemic years,
horrible,
and,
yeah.
with kids were at home from school and so on. And so, for instance, last summer when we were, starting back into our in-person events, last spring, really, and the summer program has you can do a online portion where they can report their reading through an app and whatnot. And it does look like fun, but we made a conscious decision not to do that because
Right.
we just felt, and I think parents agreed, their kids had plenty of, they weren't lacking in screen time. What
Right.
they really wanted was some in-person,
Yeah,
you know.
involve other humans.
Right, right. And you
Before
think
we
about some of
forget
the,
how to be a human.
Sure, some of the littlest kids that we had coming to story time, you know, they had been maybe 1 year old when the pandemic started, so they really had never experienced life without masks and with just getting together with their kids.
Yeah.
So we think that was probably pretty important to have those kind of in-person interactions.
And I assume you don't have your kids coming to your programs behind masks.
Not at this point, no.
Good.
You know, during the
When
peak
you had
of the,
to, you did,
we
yeah.
did have to, just for safety's sake, and then
Yeah.
during the, you know, once home testing was widely available and I was able to get my hands on a lot of tests, I started testing 3 or 4 or 5 times a week at one point when the pandemic was still going pretty strong, because we, you know, were having our in-person story times
Sure.
in the library. And so I was kind of the guinea pig, and I never did come down with COVID according to
Right.
any of those tests, so that made me feel a little bit better about doing those in-person
Sure.
things and the daycare visits. I don't want to be the, you know,
The bearer
typhoid
of,
Mary.
of bad organisms, right?
Right, spreading them around, and you know, so if anyone was going to get it, it probably would have been me, because
Yeah, and
if you-
equally we all need to rebuild our immune systems,
Sure.
which is exposure. It's really hard to learn a lot of things behind a mask.
No, that's true, and you know, the littlest kids, it's hard for them to really wear. Of course, under 2, they couldn't wear them anyway,
Right.
so there'd be some kids
Right.
that didn't have them, and then
But we
3 or
rely
4,
on
it was
facial
hard.
expressions so much as a learning tool,
Yeah.
as a communication tool.
Oh, it was so great to see the kids' faces after,
Yeah.
you know, and of course during the summer when we're outdoors, even last summer,
Yeah.
we were able to do it without
course.
masks, but indoor.
And you
was
have
a little
enough
more worrisome.
space.
Yeah.
Which is really
Right.
nice.
But yeah, if anyone was going to get it, it would have been me, because if you've ever read stories in front of little tiny kids, some of them will come right up close to you and then just sneeze straight in your
Yes.
face because they don't know
Yeah,
anything.
they have no refinement.
Yeah, so, but we feel like our air filtration and the ventilation, you know, did us a lot of good, and except when it was absolutely freezing cold, we would also open windows down there, so, you know, our heat was kind of fighting it out with the windows and the ventilation and the air
Yeah.
filtration. But yeah, interesting time to come on board a library,
Yeah.
for sure. A lot of challenges for libraries, but we're-
Right. Do you actively seek volunteers? I mean, is this something that people could become involved with?
Sure, yeah, they can contact the library if they're interested, and we can always use more volunteers and
Yeah.
go through a little
I mean,
process.
your
to
programs
see if they're
sound
interested.
great, and the volunteer can learn too.
Absolutely, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's, you know, the volunteers really enjoy it. We have one volunteer, Allie Kelly, who's one of our super volunteer.
Yeah.
She's been doing this summer program for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, helping with that,
Yeah.
and of course she went to the summer program in the past when she was much younger. But she's very reliable and just knows her stuff and comes in and helps us set up, and so
Yeah.
great with the kids. And we have several other really good volunteers now too who are helping out. So yeah, we can always use more. The library really does run largely on volunteers with a few
Right.
paid staff. So
And you have a community garden too.
we do. The library is very lucky to have a nice grounds outside and considerable. I think it's almost 5 acres worth of grounds out behind the library. On part of that, there's a community garden, and Ruth Douglas
Yes.
and her partner have done most of the work on that this year. But it's looking great. There's going to be quite a bit of food in it, and yeah, we're lucky to have that kind of space out there.
And the food goes to the people who work it, I assume, and where does the extra go?
You know, that's a good question that I don't have the answer to, but you should have Ruth on to talk about the community garden, and she could give you a
Yeah.
better idea. I know that the library is sort of a light touch on it. We sort of contract with somebody to run the community garden, and it's sort
great.
of up to them how they run it. But yeah, it's not a for-profit thing. Yeah.
You have a children's component to it? Or
She
it was
she
going
has
to be
started a
initially,
little
right?
children's area
Yeah.
in the garden, and we're still working on plans for that. So, yeah, I think
And
it's
getting
a good
kids involved
combination.
and getting their fingers in the dirt.
Sure, yeah. Last year we did a program where the kids planted seeds at the beginning of the season, just little marigolds, which are easy to do.
Yeah.
Kids love that, you know, and watching them grow. So, and another idea that we have that we're currently pursuing funding for is story walks. You familiar with the story walk concept? So this was actually an idea invented by a Vermonter, and I feel terrible that her name is escaping me, but it was in concert with the Kellogg Hubbard Library in Montpelier.
Yeah.
And the idea is to take children's books and they remove the pages, laminate them, and then they post them over about a half-mile walkway. So you walk from station to station some distance and read the story as you go. And so it kind of combines, literacy with a little bit of outdoor family activity.
Nice.
And we have, nice grounds around the library that we would like to surround by a nice permanent installation that you could switch different stories onto, a different story every month. And we're pursuing some funding that would help us to, if we can get the funding, build this story walk, so installing some permanent posts with little diagonal little plywood sheets that you could use Velcro to stick these laminated sheets on, and then also setting up one at the Northwoods Stewardship Center in Charleston.
That's a wonderful place.
It is a terrific place, and they've got they've got some experience of setting up outdoor education stuff like that. So we have a grant application in. We're hopeful about that, and if we don't get that one, we'll keep trying for other funding sources. Because it's a great partnership. They have lots of school groups and just individual visitors there. And so we'd like to set up one whole story walk there and one at the library. The library would sort of do the library part of it, which is helping to select the books and prepare them. And they actually have AmeriCorps volunteers and crew that would actually set up the physical posts both there and at the library. So a nice partnership arrangement there. So
yeah, another one to think about is the Vermont Land Trust, which has Bluffside Farm in Newport.
Yeah.
Lots of opportunity there, and they're really interested in figuring out different partnerships.
Sure. Yeah, and we know there's numerous schools that have walking paths, dedicated walking paths. Charleston School does. So if we can get the ball rolling, I mean, in my ideal world, we'd have a bunch of these story walks around and circulate the stories into different places. And it's we could all use more physical activity, and it's just a nice family activity because the whole family can go and move
Can you
from
partner
station
with
to
other
station.
libraries too?
Potentially, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So
It'd be really great
ideas.
if the library, because there are 3 libraries in our immediate area, as obviously one in Orleans, 2 in the other towns. Imagine what you could all do together.
Sure, I have some ideas on that too, but I'll
I
keep
bet
those
you
to
do.
myself until I can make a little more progress on them. But yeah, we're really, it's for such a small population area, we're lucky that we have so many terrific libraries. Newport's got a beautiful library. Of course, the Haskell Library in Opera
Haskell's fabulous.
in Derby Line. That's sort of famous for being right on the Canadian border. We actually had a couple come into the Daily the other day and ask if we were them.
No,
I said,
sorry.
no, sorry. Sent them up there.
Yeah.
Island Pond is a tiny library, but boy, do they punch above their weight. They've got some great programs going on for the summer. I noticed that Orleans sort of revamped their children's stuff.
Yeah.
I haven't been down there lately, but I keep seeing on Facebook all these really fun activities that they're doing. It's great to see. Barton and Glover, we're really lucky to have some great, even in small libraries, but great ones.
Yeah, we sort of got out of practice of going into libraries because of COVID.
Sure.
So what you guys are offering is such a wonderful way of saying, hey, come on back.
Sure.
We're out here. We're waiting for you. Look what we've got for you.
Yep, and we still have some people that are just starting to come back into the library now. We had a couple the other day that the director reminded me, or let me know that they had been daily visitors and just hadn't been in a long, long time, and they were glad to be back, and we were glad to see them. And,
I mean, libraries have been community centers, and that door was suddenly slammed shut.
Yeah, that
To
was
nobody's fault, but
very difficult.
Yeah.
And, we were lucky that we were able to reopen earlier than a lot of other libraries, just because, again, good ventilation and so on. And we did the masking thing for quite a while, and we still have quite a few people who come in in masks. It's not mandatory, but there's people who are at higher risk, and that's totally understandable.
Totally.
Thankfully, now we have access to high quality N95 and N99 type masks that will keep people a lot safer if they're in that
If
situation.
you can handle feeling suffocated. They're a challenge.
Sure,
They
yeah.
really
I did not enjoy the mask, but we did it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you had to do it.
You had no
it was
choice,
The
I
other
know.
choice was not being open to the public. And
Right.
they initially, of course, all the libraries were ordered closed. They had to close
Yes.
for a couple months, and then, many stayed closed longer and just did curbside service, which was great. But
Curbside actually was a big help because
Sure.
it was so hard for people not being able to access books.
absolutely, and a lot of people may not realize, but most libraries actually don't have enough room on their shelves for all their books. Because at any given time, a lot of them are out there. If you suddenly return all the books to all the libraries, there's nowhere to put them.
I never would have thought of that.
No, it's true. So, so we were
Yeah.
really glad that that Dailey was able to open before a lot of other places and able to do more in-person programming. And then just the luck of having such a great outdoor space and
Yeah.
cooperation from the junior high to have an event tent. So we've been very lucky with the weather, I have to say. We have yet to have to cancel or move indoors an outdoor program.
Yeah, isn't that great?
We got away with 16 last summer, and there was a few that were a close call.
Yeah.
And so far, knock on wood, this summer too, we've dodged some thunderstorms by an hour or two, but
I'll take it.
yeah, I'll take it. I mean, in theory now we could move things indoors, but sometimes we're
But
getting
if you
a big
don't
enough
have
crowd.
to, why
that
would you?
And I think we
It's so
actually,
nice out there.
some of the crowds that we've drawn are too big to put downstairs in the library,
Right.
like the fire marshal would not approve. I think we're limited to about 40 people down there, so.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
we're very
but
lucky to do it outside.
The last one that you just described, 78 kids. Where would you have put them?
It wouldn't work, yeah, you'd have to turn
Right.
some away. So, anyway, we're lucky that way, and we're lucky that our board's been very supportive, and that we've been able to continue providing the services as much as
Great.
we have.
Well, we are out of time. It goes so fast.
Well, thank you very
Thank
much
you
for having me.
so much for coming in. And we really look forward to learning more about how the libraries are working, particularly the Dailey, 'cause your programming is just so creative.
Well, thanks so much. I guess I should say people should go online and check us out on the website.
Absolutely.
and on
Tell them how to
Facebook.
get there.
Google Dailey Memorial Library is the easiest way to do it, and we'll come up first. And then also check us out on Facebook on
Perfect.
Dailey Library. So.
Do that.
Thank you very much, Pam.